My relationship with Terry, well, he was my brother, and I suppose pretty much our relationship was a brother relationship, whatever that might mean. Um, I think there were various phases that we went through in terms of the way that we related to each other that changed over time. I think looking back at photos of the two of us growing up, we obviously played together a lot and had a lot of activities that were that we just got on together with our various tricycles and bicycles and so on. So not that I remember a whole lot about that time, but I can certainly remember that we did used to play together, and we pretty much always interacted with each other in terms of our activities. I'd see what he wanted to do, and he would see what I wanted to do, and a lot of my activities, I guess, in my early childhood were basically activities that involved the two of us. But as we got older and started school, there did seem to be a difference between our characters, in that Terry was a very social kid and needed to seem to have people around him to play with and to interact with, whereas increasingly I seemed to be able to amuse myself and entertain myself and do things that I wanted to do. So I guess in that way we began to diverge a little, and my brother would always find someone to play with, and I would go away and play with something that I actually felt I wanted to do for me. And occasionally I'd join in with the neighbourhood gang, as it were, but generally speaking, that was a definite difference. Also, things began to change a little bit when he began to get sick, and he had quite a lot of times when he was sick, unfortunately. And I think I never really fully understood what that meant for him. And sometimes I think I could be a bit, I won't say mean, but I could probably almost hear myself saying, get over it and get on with things. So, not too proud about that, but I guess we were kids and I didn't really understand what was going on for him. But it was I think, even in his early childhood, primary school age, tough for him. He seemed to get illnesses around his neck area, and he had glandular fever, and yeah, he did struggle with his health, and that was unfortunate and did have an impact on our relationship. But apart from that, we still got on really well. Towards the, I suppose, older middle childhood, that is like Gen 3, Gen 4, intermediate, I definitely got into a phase where I began to tease him in a way which actually wasn't really very great. What happened, I think, was that whenever I did a wee wind up type comment, he actually reacted, and I now know that he probably reacted because he was not well at times, but he reacted, and that just got me making more comments, which actually wound up even more. So I found I could actually wind him up quite easily, and unfortunately, and again, not that I'm really proud of now, I did actually tend to wind him up quite a lot and tease him, and he got into some real tizzers, sort of, as you call it, or some real states, and unfortunately that wasn't great. So he was a bit of a reactor, and that was part of our relationship. But apart from that, we still played together, and as we got older, played sport together. We sometimes talked about things, but definitely by the time we got into, say, secondary school, he was really into his social circle, into his music, which he was really good at, and I was much more into my smaller group of friends and my own activities. So at that point, we probably began to diverge even more. Maybe getting a little bit competitive in terms of I was doing quite well at school. He seemed to struggle at school, and I probably made some points about that a little bit. So maybe there was a bit of a competitive edge came in there as well, as I recall. And in the sport area, there was a competitor. He played soccer. He played soccer better than I did, and he played tennis. I probably played tennis better than he did. So yeah, we gravitated into our own sort of areas there. He had girlfriends from early on. I tended not to have girlfriends early on. Um, so probably that was how we got on. I remember in probably our middle childhood, taking him on long bike rides and long, I was running bike rides actually, big long expeditions that I went on, and he had come along and struggled to sort of keep up, and again probably partly because of his health, and he was really finding it very difficult. And there was even one trip where we actually took a very long ride from Napier out to Miani, which is out of Napier, through to Taradale and Green Meadows and back to Napier. It took almost a whole day, and my mother ended up having to call the police to try and track us down because she had no idea where we were. I was quite happy and sure I knew where we were. My brother was really struggling, and that went down in family history as me leading him on somewhat around that activity. So a bit of an example of the sort of thing I did, probably to lead him on somewhat. But once I left home, our contact tended to reduce quite a lot for a period, and he went on to his life. I came down, well, went up to Napier for his first marriage, and that was pretty good. We had some good times, although I still probably tended to wind up a little bit even then. And about that point, he really started to get really unwell, and unfortunately his cancer began to become clearly part of an issue. At that point, I probably didn't really understand what he was going through. I was getting on with my life, he was getting on with his life. And even though I tried to be supportive, we did drift apart, I think, a little bit. When he got together with his second wife, Rowan, our families had come together a little bit more, and we spent more time together, and that was good times actually. I moved to Hamilton, of course, and when I did that, we actually had a lot more contact with each other, and began to actually bond as adult brothers, and that was good. I think it certainly was a period that I felt much better about, and our families began to grow up, and our kids began to grow up, and even though his relationship was unfortunately fraught with, I guess, things that were happening within the relationship, and I tried to be supportive. That didn't necessarily go easily for him. And David and Stephen, and they were good kids, and I enjoyed spending time with them. But because of the nature of the relationship, it wasn't always easy to do that. But time went on, and I think that was a better bonding time for both Terry and for me. We often rang each other and had chats, and I felt I was becoming much more of a supportive person for him, and was able to actually talk through things with him in a much more adult and mature way than I had when I was, say, a kid. So that was good, and I think we got much closer, and I felt closer to him, and that was, yeah, again, was good. When he separated from Rowan, and I guess I was again, hopefully supportive. Probably a bit of a gap in contact, I suspect, but as I recall. But when he got together with Vicky, that was, I think, definitely a time that that I felt was really good, and probably was the best time in terms of our relationship, really. Although right through it was good. I'm not saying that there was anything not good about it, but just in terms of the way that we were able to probably talk and do things together and so on, that was good. So it was unfortunate that that time wasn't as long as it could have been, and that he did get unwell, and eventually did pass away. Yeah, so that was not great, but I guess out of that we had the ongoing contact with David and Stephen, and even though that's drifted in and out over the years to some degree, I've always felt that I've wanted to try and stay in contact and keep in contact. For me, that hasn't been easy, but I'll try and do better over the next little period, because when I'm gone, that will be the end of our, I guess, relationship with that level of the family, really. I remember some good times in terms of we did, when I worked for the airline, go for a road trip up the west coast, and the two of us, that's my brother and I, and our My Little Mini, went zipping up across to the coast and zipped along the whole west coast area, really, from the top around Greymouth and Hokitika right down to Jackson's Bay and through Haast and so on. I recall the Mini struggling a bit in the rain. I recall many insects on the roof of some of the hotels we stayed in, or motels we stayed in. But we enjoyed that, and we enjoyed our company together. That was a good road trip. and we went flying together at various times when I went to Napier, and that was good. I took him up in the plane and we zipped around. He took me up in his glider, which was something which I found interesting. Gliders weren't my thing, and that was my only trip in a glider, but he took me up, and I was the passenger, and he was in control, and that was a good little trip. He did well with his gliding, and he did well with his model aeroplanes as well. A lot of those things we spent time doing together. So I think even though our relationship had changed, it was always a good relationship and a good. Apart from, I think I probably gave him, probably unfortunately, teased him far too much when he was a younger person, and that's something I regret now. But as I say, we were kids getting on with our lives, and didn't fully appreciate his illness. Apart from that, I think we'd have a good life together, and something I'll always in my mind feel was good, and yeah, an important part of my life, and something that I really have missed ever since he passed away. Yeah, I have really missed that. So what we had was good and great. Could have been more, but there we are. I think he was a good person, a really good person, and he was a person who was really good to be the brother of, and yeah, hopefully a lot of people in the future will remember who he was and what he did, and how he actually yeah, did really make a amazing effort to be a I think a good person, and do a lot of interesting things, and do his music and bring a lot of pleasure and enjoyment to people through that over time. He was a really good person, and I'm proud to say he was my brother. I'm really proud of that, and I think Stephen and Dale should be really proud to say that he was their father. I think they should be really proud of that, and really, well, I think they do. I'm sure they do, and think of him as a great person in our, and we should think of him as a great person in our lives, that we, yeah, for the time he was there, that was good. So, yeah. Um, in my other parts of my history, I talk about Terry, so you can go into the program and just see what other things I've said about things. I may even say a bit more at times, but that's really, I think, what I said there, I think is important, and hopefully gives a bit of a picture of our relationship over those years, because it was good. Yeah, it was good.